Good evening. I'd like to call this special call Board of Trustees meeting April 13th to order. And we'll begin with a moment of silence, please. Thank you. This evening we have a 20-minute presentation by Dr. Gregory Slate, who is one of the finalists for superintendents, on his 100-day entry plan. And Dr. Slate, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, Chairman Oates and board members, distinguished guests, and the Anderson County School District 2 community. Thank you for taking a few minutes this evening to hear my proposed 100-day entry plan. As we go through this, I'm going to go through it with the idea that, very similar to Stephen Covey's idea, that you must first seek to understand and then to be understood. So my number one focus, as you'll hear throughout this whole process, is to understand so that we can move forward and have an outstanding tenure here in Anderson School District 2. So the purpose of a superintendent's 100-day entry plan is to outline goals and activities to be completed, of course, within the first 100 days here in office. The plan is going to allow me the opportunity to establish relationships with both internal and external stakeholders, as well as gain a deeper understanding of our strengths, of things that we're outstanding at, as well as opportunities for improvement of our district. This is really pretty much starts with relationship building. It starts focusing on building relationships from the get-go. The purpose is to build relationships, to build initial communication, to develop our plan for our district, for our immediate future. It's also concentrate on those key stakeholder groups, as well as the prosperity of Anderson School District 2 and the prosperity of our students. So the plan has multiple goals. It is to, of course, establish a strong, positive superintendent board relationship, establish positive working relationships with our administrators, principals, assistant principals, central office leaders, teachers, central office staff, classified staff, and all staff in and out of our buildings. It's also to establish a positive presence in the community. It's to help us understand and help me understand the strengths and opportunities for improvement for our programs that we already have in place. What are we doing well? What are the areas for improvement? Helps me understand our current financial situation to make sure that I have those conversations with key stakeholders in and out of the district and understand our operational efficiencies and alignment. It gives us a continued emphasis, as you look through these goals, there's a continued emphasis on placing students first by promoting a culture where teachers and staff can lift students toward higher levels of success and excellence. This centers our focus, as you can see on these goals, it centers our focus on a future-ready community that not only believes in what we're doing here in Anderson 2, but also invests in programs that lift up our district as a whole. It promotes transparency. It focuses on listening to teachers. It has to focus on listening first, teaching by example, and then demonstrating flexibility, and of course supporting each and every child as we move through this. Those of you who've done small business and been around for years like I have and seen what came out of the Reagan administration and the Baldrige model, you'll recognize this model very clearly. This is the Plan, Do, Study, Act model that was introduced by the Baldrige Commission years ago, in which we will talk about the 4 phases of this plan. It is cyclical in nature. It is designed that way so that it has an unspoken rule that it is used over and over in our district and our organization, so that not only we're using for a 100-day entry plan, but it'll be something we can come back to. It'll be something that helps us have a highly effective organizational culture as we move forward. So the first phase of that Plan, Do, Study, Act is planning. It's the pre-entry, if you will, phase of the 100-day entry plan. This is where we start this process. We're starting it right now, technically. We are sharing the plan with the Board of Trustees for review and gaining feedback. Hopefully, by the end of the evening, I'll be able to garner feedback from each and every one of y'all on some of these processes that I'm looking to help us move forward with. It gives us the ability to meet with senior staff and school leaders as we finish this year strong. It's critical that we finish strong where we're at right now. It helps us review what we're going to do over the summer and begin to review school opening plans for August. COVID is still a factor. We still have to have that focus in our mind and understand that as we move forward. It helps us review our school system data and our district information that will assist in the transition, working hand in hand with Mr. Andrews as we move through this process so that we can help our students and our district garner feedback from y'all, from each and every person along the way, whether it's in-house or outside of the four walls of the school district. It also gives us the ability to develop a calendar for phase 2. When we talk about the do portion of the Baldrige model, it gives us the ability to develop a calendar ahead of time so that folks in the community, folks in our school district know what we're going to do and they understand the plan. It's very transparent, it's very upfront, it's very out there so everybody sees how we're going to do business in this first 100 days. And it gives us the ability to schedule senior staff for site visits and additional support for a listening and learning tour, which is the part of phase 2 that is the most important. Similarly, working with staff to develop that calendar in phase 2, it gives us the ability to promote transparency throughout this whole process so that folks in the community understand what we're doing and understand why we're doing it. And lastly, in phase 1, it gives us the ability to develop a strong organizational capacity, cross-functionality, which is necessary in a district our size, and the ability to start promoting strong communication. So the do portion, or the doing portion of the Baldrige model in the first 100 days is the listening and learning tour. In phase 2, my team and I will work hand in hand to engage in a series of listening and learning activities. This is very active. This is not passive listening. This is getting out in the community, meeting with individual Board of Trustees, meeting with internal and external stakeholders, holding community forums. We'll talk about some of these on the next slide about some of the more detailed portions of this, but making sure that all community and groups are being held with, of course, within social distancing compliance because of COVID. Some folks may have to meet via Zoom or meet via Google Meet, but we will do those things. Additionally, internal and external documents will be developed and additional data will be collected. At every stop along the way in the listening and learning tour, we're going to take notes, exhaustive amounts of notes, so that we're listening and making sure we're documenting every step along the way, because we want to make sure that our community feels heard. We want to make sure that each Board of Trustees gets heard, each director, principal, teacher group, classified group, everybody has a voice. So to do that, the key parts of the listening and learning tour, the first part of that, and the most important, is the Share It with Slate Community Coffee and Conversations. I tried to think of something catchy. That's about as good as I got. It's good. So, staff meetings, when we do that, that's out in the community. That's with at churches, at community centers, at rec centers, anywhere and everywhere, at the public library, at the museum, places that we can get our community members to come share their thoughts with us on where they want Anderson School District 2 to go. It gives us the ability to also meet with staff at their schools. I prefer to use small PLCs and their small grade level planning and their small groups so that teachers can feel like they have a chance to get to meet me one-on-one, get to have those conversations, so we're not in some big, huge faculty meeting where a voice gets lost. If we have to use a faculty meeting, we will, but I'd prefer a smaller group setting such as a PLC or a planning setting so that we can have that dialogue, so that teachers feel like they have that voice. We will have student meetings in each school. We'll get student leadership. Yes, elementary, I would love to hear from kindergartners today. One of them asked me to smell his hand. I don't know why. He said he had a sticker and it smelled like cotton candy, I promise you. But have student meetings. Listen to students. There are stakeholders as well, and their voice is incredibly important throughout this process. Individual meetings with principals, district leaders, and central services, making sure that we're having that dialogue. That started today. It started by having conversations with our finance director. It started by having conversations with the assistant superintendent. It starts by having conversations in the small group setting that I had with other directors and the questions that they had for me. That's all part of this important process of building relationships and listening. But then having those one-on-ones as we enter in the first 100 days so that they feel like, all right, he has heard what I've got to say, and I understand and have taken notes, and I'm able to process that and use that down the road to help our school district continue to excel towards excellence. Individual meetings with boards of trustees, of course, as we talked about previously, and possibly a retreat, because it's not only important for me to understand each and every one of y'all, but it's important for me to understand how all of y'all work together. I mean, I think that's incredibly important through a retreat process. Excuse me. Also, making sure that I meet with members from the city of Belton, the town of Honeypath, the county of Anderson, including mayors, city council, city and county managers, county board members, and then last but certainly not least, meeting with faith-based groups, making sure I get out to churches, make sure I get out and understand what our pastoral community and our ministerial community are having to say. Reach out to them and hopefully have folks from Anderson too invite me to go worship with them so that I can hear what, it's very powerful for a staff member to say, look, my superintendent came to worship with me, Pastor so-and-such or Reverend so-and-such. So that way I can build a relationship not only with the staff member, but also with that member of that congregational and also that pastor and that preacher and or minister. During this phase, it'll also be critical that I start reaching out to state legislative leaders such as Senator Gambrill and Representative West, and start looking to build those teacher advisory, classified advisory, principal, parent, faith-based advisory, student advisories that we talked about briefly. This is the time that starts. This becomes commonplace. Plan, do, study, act in a cyclical fashion. This is where that starts for us to have a full presentation and a full ability to do our business in that cyclical pattern that I talked about earlier. It also gives me the chance to start scheduling time with civic organization and the Economic Development Council as we start looking to where we want to take our schools curriculum-wise and looking at things that might be opportunities for our students down the road. At each one of these, to promote transparency, he has 3 questions. And the 3 questions are critical. What do you love best about our school system so that we know what we're doing well? We know what we're good at. We know what folks believe in, what they think of when they think of Anderson 2. What should we never change? It gives us the ability to understand these are things that we don't ever need to touch. This is who we are, and we're never going to touch X, Y, or Z. And lastly, what should I be working on first? Everybody's going to have an opinion about that, and I think that's imperative that I understand that. And hopefully, question 2 and question 3 don't ever interact. Because if they do, we're going to have some serious dialogue. But this helps develop a strategy to support the district. It also gives me the ability to prioritize our goals. It gives me the ability to help articulate to each and every one of y'all as members of the Board of Trustees what our community members are feeling. The third phase, of course, is to study this. Cabinet, central office leaders, principals, administrators, we have to look at the data that has gathered from this listening and learning tour. We have to study it. We have to analyze it. It has to become part of where we want to take the district. We have to develop a plan around this is what we heard, this is what we're going to share with the Board of Trustees, this is where we need to go. This is where we need to take our school district. Our community says they need X. Our teachers say they need Y. Our principals say they need this for support. These are things that we have to do. And so therefore we develop this plan, and that we look at the trends and the themes, we prioritize them, we look at the opportunities for district improvement, and we look at our strengths, and we share this, and we create this plan, and we share it with the Board of Trustees. And we do that, of course, in open session so everybody sees it. And last, we've got to act on it. The final phase of the entry and learning plan will culminate not only in a report to the Board of Trustees, but in the short term, it'll give us the ability to start thinking about where we want to take the district so that the board understands what is being told to us loud and clear. So with that being said, some of the short-term things that I've just kind of summarized, some of the short-term goals that are embedded within this, establishing that classified and teacher advisory council, establishing that student advisory council, establishing or reviewing a parent advisory council, establishing that faith-based advisory council. And I threw in a fun one there that'll help us because we have a strong social media presence. And utilizing to help promote that unity that we're trying to drive home so that everybody knows we're still listening. And when they see something on social media and they want to tag us in it, we use two critical hashtags. We use one with One Heart, and I'll come back to that one in just a second, and Team ASD2. And the reason I use the term One Heart is because we have two towns. Both towns have a motto that focuses on heart. Belton has the historic heart with a new beat, and of course, Honeypath with Littletown with a big heart. So we focus on our heart because that's our family atmosphere. And we use that with a critical hashtag with One Heart and, of course, Team ASD2. Looking at some potential long-term goals that will come out of this, that typically come out of 100-day entry plans, looking at ongoing leadership development. Administrators are going to say, we need X, Y, and Z, so that's where our leadership development has to come from. We listen to them, we put that into practice. We create a succession plan to identify, grow, and develop future leaders. So by looking at that professional development in that first bullet, that gives us the second bullet. How do we grow our folks? We obviously are going to have to create a post-pandemic plan. We're getting out of COVID. Hopefully it'll be over very soon. We don't know, but hopefully it will. But we do that by listening to our teachers. That's the grassroots approach. The learning and growth plan has to come from what we've heard from our teachers. We develop our professional development around collaboration around student achievement, or the CASA PLC model. It's a data-driven PLC model. It came through loud and clear today in meeting with principals that PLCs are critical, that we're working on PLCs in our district right now. And so therefore, using what we hear from them and already put it into practice. What can we do? We have to all be singing from the same sheet of music when it comes to our PLC model. And so therefore, that's critical in a potential long-term goal. And last, we've got to celebrate. We've got to celebrate what we're doing well. Celebrate our successes, plan a State of the Schools event saying, here's what we've got, here's our data, here's what we're doing well, here's the areas we're going to target to improve. So that everybody understands that this is where we've come from, this is where we're going to go, and this is where we're moving as a district. So lastly, I leave you with this. Finally, I want to thank the Board of Trustees and Anderson County School District 2 community for allowing me the time to present this evening. I sincerely believe that together we can help each and every child every day. And by engaging, educating, and empowering our learning community today for a successful tomorrow, I think we take our motto and we become action-oriented and we move forward. So thank you, and I'll entertain any questions you have at this time.
Thank you.
Dr. Slates, thank you so much for that presentation. In a few minutes, we're going to go into executive session, just so those who are watching at home will know. After executive session, there will be no action, so the meeting will just come back out of executive session and adjourn. And also, for those who are watching, the live stream will be posted on the district webpage, so if anyone was not able to see the stream tonight, they'll be able to see it on the webpage. That'll be posted on Thursday. So on Thursday, anyone would be able to watch the live stream that we had here tonight. Do I have a motion to go into executive session, Dr. Ashley?
Second.
Dr. Barnes, second. All in favor? All right, we're going to executive session. We need to take about a 5-minute break.